April 7th, 1959. Waldorf Astoria Hotel. Press conference for Some Like It Hot. 200 journalists. Reporter Bob Harrison stood up and asked, "Miss Monroe, can you even read? Or do people read scripts to you?" The room gasped. Marilyn smiled. And her next 90 seconds destroyed him forever. April 7th, 1959. 2 p.m. Waldorf Astoria Hotel. Grand Ballroom, New York City. Press conference for Some Like It Hot. The film was a phenomenon. Critics loved it. Audiences loved it. Billy Wilder's masterpiece. Marilyn Monroe sat at the center table. Next to her, Billy Wilder, Tony Curtis, Jack Lemmon. 200 journalists filled the room. Cameras flashing. Questions flying. Most questions were normal. How was it working with Billy Wilder? What's your favorite scene? Will there be a sequel? Marilyn answered gracefully, intelligently, thoughtfully. But in the back row sat Bob Harrison, reporter for Cinema Confidential magazine. Notorious gossip rag, sleazy, mean-spirited. Harrison had a reputation. He asked cruel questions, tried to make celebrities cry, boosted circulation with controversy, and he hated Marilyn Monroe. Not for any real reason, just professional jealousy. She was too famous, too loved, too successful, so he decided to take her down. He raised his hand. "Miss Monroe, I have a question." Marilyn looked up. "Yes?" Harrison stood, smirking. "This is your 29th film, correct?" "Yes, and you've worked with some of the greatest directors, John Huston, Billy Wilder, Joshua Logan. I've been very fortunate, indeed. But I'm curious about something." He paused. "For dramatic effect, can you actually read?" The room went silent. Every head turned to Harrison. "Excuse me?" Marilyn said. "I'm asking, can you read? Or do people read your scripts to you? Because I've heard rumors that you're functionally illiterate, that you memorize phonetically, that you can't actually read." Gasps. Billy Wilder stood up. "That's completely inappropriate." But Marilyn put her hand on his arm. "It's okay, Billy. I'll answer." She looked at Harrison. Calm, composed. "That's quite an accusation, Mr. Harrison." "Bob Harrison." "Mr. Harrison, you're asking if I can read?" "Yes, because frankly your public persona suggests otherwise. The dumb blonde, the breathy voice, the giggles. It all points to someone who's—" Journalists shouted at Harrison, "Sit down. That's disgraceful. Apologize." But Marilyn remained calm. "Mr. Harrison, I appreciate your curiosity, and I'm happy to answer your question." She reached under the table, pulled out her bag, and from the bag she pulled out a book. What Marilyn Monroe pulled from her bag wasn't just a book, it was a weapon. And over the next 90 seconds, she would use it to destroy Bob Harrison's career so completely that he'd never work in journalism again. Marilyn held up the book. The Brothers Karamazov, by Fyodor Dostoevsky. 796 pages. Published 1880. She opened it. Pages filled with notes, highlights, underlines. "This is my personal copy. I'm currently reading it. For the third time." She turned to a marked page. Page 270. "I find that fascinating, because it questions the foundation of morality. If there's no divine authority, what stops humans from chaos?" The room was silent, listening. "I think Dostoevsky is arguing that conscience exists independent of religion, that humans have an innate sense of right and wrong, but others interpret it differently, that without God there is no morality." She looked at Harrison. "What do you think, Mr. Harrison? Or is it inherent in humanity?" Harrison's mouth opened, closed. No words came out. "No opinion? That's okay. It's a complex question." She pulled out another book from her bag. Ulysses by James Joyce, 730 pages, one of the most difficult books in the English language. She opened it. More notes, more highlights. "I've read this twice. It's challenging. Stream of consciousness, nonlinear narrative, but it's brilliant. Joyce captures the human mind in a way no one else has." She found a page. Page 34. "History is a nightmare from which I am trying to awake." Leopold Bloom, trapped by the past, trying to move forward but haunted by what was. She looked directly at Harrison. "I relate to that, Mr. Harrison, because people like you keep trying to trap me in a persona, the dumb blonde, the sex symbol. You won't let me be anything else. You won't let me awake from that nightmare." The room was riveted. She pulled out a third book, The Complete Works of William Shakespeare, 264 pages. She opened to a marked page. Hamlet, Act 3, Scene 1. "To be or not to be, that is the question. Everyone knows that line. But do you know what comes next, Mr. Harrison?" Harrison said nothing. Marilyn recited from memory. "Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to take arms against a sea of troubles, and by opposing end them. She closed the book. Hamlet is asking, should I endure suffering passively, or should I fight back? Should I accept how others define me, or should I define myself? She looked around the room. For years I suffered the slings and arrows. I let people like Mr. Harrison define me, mock me, underestimate me. She stood up. But today, I'm taking arms, I'm opposing, and I'm ending it. The room erupted in applause. But Marilyn wasn't done, because she had one more thing to say, something that would ensure Bob Harrison never worked in journalism again. Marilyn walked toward Harrison. The crowd parted. She stood directly in front of him. Mr. Harrison, you asked if I can read. I've demonstrated that I can. Quite well, actually. Harrison nodded, pale, sweating. Now I have a question for you. She pulled out a piece of paper, unfolded it. This is an article you wrote, November 1958, Cinema Confidential magazine. Title, Marilyn Monroe, Beauty Without Brains. She began reading. Monroe stumbles through scripts like a child sounding out words. Sources say she requires line coaching for even simple dialogue. One wonders how she maintains a career when she clearly lacks basic literacy. Marilyn looked up. Those are serious accusations, Mr. Harrison. Accusing someone of illiteracy. Do you have proof? I have sources, names, confidential sources. Convenient, because confidential sources can't be verified, can't be challenged, can't be proven false. She pulled out another paper. This is a letter from Billy Wilder, my director, written yesterday when he heard you'd be at this press conference. She read, Marilyn Monroe is one of the most intelligent actresses I've ever worked with. She analyzes scripts with depth and nuance. She questions motivations, suggests improvements, and elevates material. Any suggestion that she cannot read is not just false, it's absurd. She pulled out another letter. This is from Lee Strasberg, my acting teacher. He teaches at the Actors Studio. Students include Marlon Brando, Paul Newman, James Dean. She read, Marilyn Monroe is among the most dedicated students I've ever taught. She reads voraciously, philosophy, psychology, drama. She arrives prepared. She thinks deeply. She is brilliant. She pulled out more letters. This is from Arthur Miller, Pulitzer Prize-winning playwright. This is from Carl Sandburg. This is from Truman Capote, author. She placed them all on the table in front of Harrison. All of them say the same thing. Marilyn Monroe is intelligent, well-read, thoughtful. She leaned down, eye level with Harrison. So now I ask you, Mr. Harrison, can you read? Because apparently you can't read letters of recommendation. Or you did, and you ignored them. Which is worse, illiteracy or dishonesty? Harrison stood up, trying to leave. Sit down, Marilyn said. Her voice wasn't loud, but it was absolute. Harrison sat. You built a career on cruelty, Mr. Harrison, on tearing people down, on lies and gossip. You thought I was an easy target, the dumb blonde who wouldn't fight back. She straightened up. But here's what you didn't consider. I've been underestimated my entire life. By studios, by directors, by journalists like you. And every time I've proven them wrong. She addressed the entire room now. Gentlemen and ladies of the press, I don't mind criticism. If you think my acting is bad, say so. If you think a film is weak, write that. That's your job. But attacking someone's intelligence, accusing them of illiteracy with no proof, that's not journalism. That's cruelty. She picked up Harrison's press badge from the table. Mr. Harrison, I'm going to do something I've never done before. I'm going to ask that you be removed from this press conference. Security started moving toward Harrison, and I'm going to contact your editor, and every editor in New York, and I'm going to make sure they know. You print lies. You fabricate sources. You attack without evidence. She handed the badge to security. I won't end your career, Mr. Harrison. You already did that yourself. I'm just making sure everyone knows. Harrison was escorted out, silent, defeated, humiliated. The room erupted. Applause. Standing ovation. 200 journalists on their feet. Not for Marilyn the actress, for Marilyn the warrior. But the fallout didn't end there, because what Marilyn did that day created a ripple that changed journalism forever. April 8, 1959. The next day, every newspaper in America ran the story. New York Times, Monroe defends intelligence, exposes journalists' lies. Los Angeles Times, Marilyn Monroe proves she's more than a pretty face. Variety, Monroe's intellectual knockout, reporter humiliated. Bob Harrison's editor received 50 phone calls that morning, from publicists, lawyers, other journalists, all saying the same thing. Bob Harrison is a liability. Fire him. By noon, Harrison was unemployed, but Marilyn wasn't celebrating. She was in her hotel room, exhausted. Her publicist, Pat Newcomb, entered. Marilyn, you're a hero. Everyone's talking about it. I don't feel like a hero. I feel tired of fighting, of proving myself, of defending my intelligence every single day. Pat sat beside her. Do you know how many women you helped today? Marilyn looked up. Every woman who's been called dumb because she's pretty. Every woman who's been underestimated. Every woman who's been told she can't be both beautiful and smart. You gave them a voice. You showed them. Fight back. Prove them wrong. Marilyn started crying. I just want to be taken seriously. You are. After today, everyone takes you seriously. And Pat was right. After April 7, 1959, something changed. Film critics started analyzing Marilyn's performances differently, not just sexy or funny, but nuanced, intelligent, layered. Directors started sending her dramatic scripts, not just comedies, real material. And other actresses started speaking up, about being underestimated, about fighting stereotypes, all because Marilyn stood up to Bob Harrison. But there was one more thing. Something Bob Harrison did 20 years later, something nobody expected. 20 years after the incident, Bob Harrison was 64 years old. Out of journalism, working as a clerk in a bookstore. Ironically, one day a customer came in. Young woman, college student. "Excuse me, do you have the Brothers Karamazov?" Harrison froze. That title, that book. Yes, Russian literature section. The student went to find it. Harrison followed. "Can I ask why you're reading Dostoevsky?" "For class. But honestly, I'm excited. Marilyn Monroe read it. If it was good enough for her, it's good enough for me." Harrison's chest tightened. Marilyn Monroe. Yeah, she was super smart. Read constantly. People didn't know that. They just saw her as a blonde bimbo. But she wasn't. Harrison's eyes filled with tears. I knew her. Really? What was she like? Harrison paused. Decades of shame crushing him. I was cruel to her. Once, at a press conference, I asked if she could read. Implied she was stupid. The student's eyes widened. "Wait, are you Bob Harrison?" He nodded. "I read about that. She destroyed you. She pulled out like 3 books and quoted Shakespeare." "She did. Good. You deserved it." Harrison nodded. "I did." The student softened. "Why did you do it?" "Because I was jealous, insecure, mean. She was successful and beloved. I was nobody, so I tried to tear her down. And she tore me down instead. And she was right to." Silence. "Do you regret it?" The student asked. "Every day, especially after she died." 1962. "I wanted to apologize, but it was too late." The student picked up. "The Brothers Karamazov. Maybe it's not too late." "What do you mean?" "Write about it. Honestly. Your mistake, your regret, your lesson. Maybe that's your apology." Bob Harrison published a book, The Day I Attacked Marilyn Monroe and Lost My Soul. In it he detailed everything. The press conference, his cruelty, Marilyn's brilliance, his downfall. And he ended with this: "Marilyn Monroe was smarter than I ever was. Not just because she read Dostoevsky, but because she understood something I didn't. Cruelty diminishes the cruel. Kindness elevates everyone. I spent my career tearing people down. She spent hers lifting them up. I lost everything. She gained immortality. That's not luck, that's justice." The book sold moderately. Not a bestseller, but it resonated, especially with journalists, who started questioning, are we cruel? Do we tear people down unfairly? Some say Bob Harrison's book started a shift in celebrity journalism, toward fairness, accuracy, respect. Maybe, maybe not. But one thing is certain, Marilyn Monroe changed Bob Harrison, even in death. Bob Harrison died in 1987. At his funeral, his daughter read from his journal, and what she found shocked everyone. Bob Harrison's funeral, night, small gathering. He'd been out of the public eye for decades. His daughter Margaret stood at the podium. "My father was a complicated man. He made mistakes, big ones, and he spent the last 30 years trying to atone." She held up a journal. "This is his private journal, written from 1979 to 1987. He wanted it read at his funeral." She opened to a marked page, dated April 7, 1980, exactly 21 years after the Marilyn incident. She read, "Today is the anniversary. 21 years since I asked Marilyn Monroe if she could read. 21 years since she destroyed me. I deserved it. But here's what haunts me. I didn't just attack Marilyn that day. I attacked every woman who's been underestimated, every person who's been judged by appearance. Marilyn stood up for them, and I was the villain. If I could go back, I would apologize. I would tell her, you were right, I was wrong. You are brilliant, I am sorry." But she's gone, dead since 1962. So all I can do is live differently. I work in a bookstore now. I recommend books, especially to young women. Especially ones who seem uncertain. Especially ones who might be told they're not smart enough. I tell them, read, study, prove them wrong. Like Marilyn Monroe did. It's not redemption, but it's something. Margaret closed the journal, crying. "My father made a mistake, but he learned from it. He changed, and he spent 30 years trying to honor Marilyn Monroe's memory. Not by praising her beauty, by praising her mind." Today, Bob Harrison's book is taught in journalism ethics classes as a cautionary tale of what happens when journalists prioritize cruelty over truth, and as a redemption story of a man who realized his mistake and changed. Epilogue. The library. After Marilyn died, her personal library was cataloged. 430 books, all annotated, highlighted, studied, and on the inside cover of the Brothers Karamazov, Marilyn had written, "They think I'm stupid, so I read, and read, and read, and read, until I know more than them, until I can quote Dostoevsky, and they can't, until they have no choice but to see. I am smart, I am worthy, I am more than they imagined, not for them, for me. Naimem, Fa, Meg." That library is now at the Academy Museum in Los Angeles, open to the public, and every year, thousands of people visit, especially young women. They look at the books, the notes, the proof, and they leave inspired. Because Marilyn Monroe proved, you don't have to choose between beauty and brains, you can be both, and anyone who says otherwise is wrong. April 7, 1959. Bob Harrison asked, "Can you even read?" Marilyn Monroe didn't just answer. She taught, she inspired, she changed journalism. And 66 years later, her library still whispers, "Never underestimate a woman with a book." Bob Harrison died in 1987. Marilyn Monroe died in 1962. But Marilyn won, not just that day, forever. Because heroes are remembered for what they built, and villains are remembered for what they destroyed. Harrison destroyed himself. Marilyn built a legacy. That's not luck. That's literature. That's intelligence. That's Marilyn.